If you're in need of a prehistoric survival game with supposed Souls-like combat, then you might want to stick around for this one, because in this video, we're going to be talking about ARK 2, the upcoming sequel to ARK Survival Evolved from Studio Wildcard. Now, many people might be wondering, why are you covering these games that have been announced a while ago, and why are you going through some of these things when a lot of this data is already known? I think the answer to that is, it's a slow time right now. There are not a lot of games out. We had a lot of time set aside for Dragon Age the Veilguard. We all know how that turned out. So right now we're focusing on bringing the attention of games that our audience might enjoy that maybe they didn't know about or didn't know a lot about, even though they know it existed. Now, for those who aren't familiar with ARK Survival Evolved, if you've lived under a rock for the last 5 years or so, it's an open world game where you need to survive in a prehistoric setting full of giant birds and dinosaurs amongst other creatures. To stay alive, you'll be setting up bases and crafting weapons that range from clubs to assault rifles. Yes, you heard that right. And what's actually neat about it is that you get to capture and tame these ancient beasts so you can ride them and make them do your bidding. Yes, Palworld isn't the first to do it. ARK 2 expands on the survival and open world elements of the original game with some major changes that we'll talk a little bit about later on in this video. ARK 2 will also be set on a new planet called Arat, a different yet similar world from the previous game. This time around, though, everything shifts to a full third-person perspective, supposedly to make it a better fit for the newly upholstered combat system and movement. Originally slated for a 2022 release, ARK 2 has faced multiple delays and is now expected to launch sometime in 2025. It'll be available on PC via Steam and probably the Epic Game Store, and exclusively on Xbox Series X and S at launch. Plus, it'll be on Game Pass day one, making it easy for subscribers to access. While it has a timed exclusivity on Xbox, it'll most likely make its way to PlayStation 5 later on. ARK 2 goes into its world building, shifting its focus to a richer narrative set on the mysterious planet Arat, which is a different setting from the familiar ARK installations of the first game. The story centers around Santiago da Costa, played by Vin Diesel, who, along with his daughter Mika, navigates a harsh landscape teeming with both familiar and strange creatures. It's important to note that this isn't the clone of Santiago from the original game, but the clone of Santiago from the Genesis 2 DLC of the base game. The sequel explores Santiago's struggle to protect his tribe while confronting his past. It's kind of amusing to know that this Vin Diesel-related game will still have themes revolving around family. He'll probably never escape the memes at this point. As he attempts to build a new life, players will encounter threats from the environment and a new enemy faction, the Aratai, who can tame and control dinosaurs just like the players. This should add some challenges to the game, especially in single-player scenarios, where these humanoid enemies could be a different kind of problem from what players of the original game have gotten used to. The planet Arat is a harsh and untamed world featuring diverse ecosystems filled with creatures that migrated from an Earth long gone. Like the previous game, ARK 2 starts off with a more primal, survival-focused aesthetic. The early game footage shows rudimentary tools and primitive weapons, like bows and arrows, forcing players to rely on their wits, crafting skills, and exploration to escape death. Technology and futuristic elements might still be craftable in this game, but they seem to be more limited, which might make the journey of discovery and progress feel more grounded in this hostile new setting. The story also leans more into tribal warfare this time, with the Arati faction being a big part of the game's conflict. You'll have to deal with these tribal dynamics while surviving the harsh environment and all the creatures wandering around. It's clear the game is going to be more story-driven, with quests and objectives probably going into Santiago's journey, the lore of Arat, and maybe even some time-bending events. As you progress, there's a chance to uncover bigger secrets about the planet and how it ties into the world of the first game. ARK 2 is making some big changes to how the game plays. First off, it's switching to a third-person only view, so you'll always see your character on screen rather than switching between first and third person like in the original title. I know that some of the player base will want an option to have a first-person view, but I think the change is fitting because they've pretty much changed most of the combat system. The game's movement system is also getting a major upgrade, adding features like climbing, parkour, sliding, and swinging. These new mechanics should make getting around the world of Arat feel a lot more dynamic. Combat is also getting a complete overhaul. This time, the devs have said they're going for a more Souls-like style, which probably means battles will require more strategy and skill compared to the game's predecessor. But I'm not entirely sold on the whole idea. The use of the word Souls-like has gotten quite loose recently. I've seen games get described as Souls-like even though all they have is dodge roll mechanics and blocking in their combat. I'm wondering if they're going to make the enemies damage sponges, if the combat in ARK 2 will be stamina-based, or if they're going to introduce checkpoints. Having the ability to just dodge or parry enemies while locking onto them doesn't automatically make the game a Souls-like. And I'm mostly curious as to how they'll implement it into a game that mostly revolves around prehistoric creatures. Creatures that range from size of a doorway or ones that are just absolutely gigantic that are the size of a house. Kind of removes the theme where you're a fragile human being going up against colossal creatures with only your wits and craftsmanship to rely on. I can see it working against the Erratae though, since they're described to be humanoid. One thing is for sure, this is a big change from the simpler combat in ARK 1, and it does make encounters with enemies like the new Erratae faction or wild creatures more challenging. Only time will tell if this will be a good change or not, but my gut is telling me that it probably will be. The crafting system is also much more complex now compared to the previous title. Now, instead of just making basic tools and weapons, you'll be able to customize and upgrade them in more detailed ways. For example, you can change the handle or blade of an axe to improve its performance or give it a unique look. My guess is that you can probably tweak your gear to fit how you like to play, whether that's focusing on damage, durability, or special effects. Survival is the main focus, but ARK 2 is supposedly dialing back the high-tech gadgets from the original game, especially early on. Advanced technology will most likely come later as you progress, so you probably won't have to worry about missing out on firearms. It seems like the game wants you to feel like you're going through a gradual journey from primitive survival to mastering the environment. Plus, dinosaurs will be smarter since they'll have much improved AI. They can track you by sight, sound, and smell, so you'll need to use tricks like camouflage or hiding your scent to avoid detection. Building and community features are also being expanded on in ARK 2. It will support modding on both PC and consoles, letting players share mods and custom building templates across platforms. This means you'll be able to download or share base designs with other players, making collaboration and creativity easier than ever. Not a fan of playing a character who looks like Dominic Toretto? You can probably grab a mod to reskin him into something else. Multiplayer is also benefiting from cross-platform mod support through mod.io, so PC and Xbox players can seamlessly enjoy user-generated content. Mods could potentially bring in new dinosaurs, items, or gameplay mechanics, keeping the multiplayer experience fresh and dynamic. On top of that, the game will support dedicated servers, giving players the freedom to craft their own survival adventures with custom maps or tailored gameplay settings. Character progression will also be more detailed this time around. The game will include a skill tree with different abilities, perks, and special skills to unlock, similar to RPGs like The Elder Scrolls. This system will let you build your character to fit your playstyle, whether you want to focus on combat, crafting, or survival skills. Overall, it's about giving players more control over how they develop their character and tackle the challenges on ARK. ARK 2 also builds on its predecessor's multiplayer foundations with several enhancements designed to create a better online experience. At its core, the game will still have the survival MMO elements fans loved about ARK Survival Evolved, where players can band together in tribes, pool resources, and tame the planet's prehistoric creatures. I'm not entirely sure how they'll go about with the multiplayer, as in the previous game, the host could invite several players into their world and these players could help the host out, but the devs did mention that there will be dedicated servers where players can build their own bases. ARK 2's development journey has been a roller coaster ride full of multiple delays and shifting plans. The game was initially announced during the Game Awards 2020, with Studio Wildcard initially targeting a 2022 release. However, as time passed, the launch was pushed to 2023, and now the current window is set for late 2024. We're already late in 2024 with just over a month left, so let's be real, it's likely not to come out until next year. In a community post, the developers acknowledged these delays, saying that they're taking the extra time to refine the game for an improved player experience and to support the team's well-being. While the transparency is appreciated, and I always feel that it's better to have delays than release a game that's half-baked, it also leaves fans wondering if the release might slip into late 2025 or maybe even beyond that. Heck, some fans actually believe that the project might just be scrapped. The development of ARK 2 is tied closely to Microsoft's ecosystem, with the game set to launch as a console exclusive on Xbox Series X and PC. Additionally, ARK 2 will be available on Xbox Game Pass from day one, highlighting the strong partnership between Studio Wildcard and Microsoft. This collaboration has been ongoing since the original ARK Survival Evolved days, with the first game benefiting from early access on Xbox and continuous Game Pass support over the years. There's speculation that ARK 2 might follow a similar early access model, though nothing has been officially confirmed on that end yet. Vin Diesel is involved in ARK 2 as both an executive producer and the character Santiago, who some might recognize from ARK Genesis Part 2. While star power in games often feels more like a marketing move than anything meaningful, Diesel is actually a fan of the original ARK. This could possibly be a good thing because his love for the game might help him pitch some ideas that players will appreciate. Studio Wildcard CEO has also said that Diesel's deep knowledge of the game has been helpful during development, which kind of explains his unusual title, President of Creative Convergence. I'm not even sure what that means. Vin's character Santiago will also appear in the upcoming ARK the Animated Series, tying the game and the show together, however. Now about the game's technical aspects, ARK 2 has moved its development to Unreal Engine 5, which usually means a visually stunning open world. ARK 2 also promises some improvements in the AI used. It looks like they want to create a more immersive and dynamic world. Studio Wildcard is focusing on a systemic AI design, which means NPCs and creatures won't just follow scripted patterns. Instead, they'll react to the environment, events, and players in more realistic and unpredictable ways. For example, dinosaurs might behave differently based on their species, mood, or their current situation. This is supposedly to make the world of ARK 2 feel more alive and reactive. Final thoughts. Overall, ARK 2 does seem to have the potential to be something fans will enjoy, but at this point we've seen so little of the game that it's hard to say how it will actually play. Personally, I'm not entirely sold on the supposed Souls-like combat. It feels like an unnecessary addition to the action survival game, especially one where you'd constantly be facing dinosaurs. Instead, it might have been better to refine and improve the combat system from the first game. Removing the ability to switch between first-person and third-person perspectives is also a bit disappointing, since the first-person view really showcased the game's beauty and made it easier to admire the dinosaurs close up. That said, if they implement the new combat system well, it could end up being a hit, but for now, it's something I'm not fully convinced about. What I like about the game is the inclusion of the Ratai. It's interesting to see how the game will throw enemies who can tame dinosaurs at you. Maybe you could even have small-scale dinosaur wars or something. Imagine that. So that wraps up our video on ARK 2. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. What do you guys make of it so far? Are you surprised to hear that the game might have Souls-like combat? Is this not something you were aware of? Did you play the first game? What do you make of it? Let me know in the comments below.